Monday Night Live. What number are we up to? 94. Okay, so let's get on to the show. Let's talk about gold. Okay? There is one rule and one rule only. I see so many people on Facebook saying that that bit of ground's flogged out. There's nothing there. There's nothing there. Persistence is your best bet by a country mile. The guys that persist and get on it are the guys that spend hours and hours and hours out there. Once they get dialed in, and like, for instance, if I talked about the lease, for instance, that lease, I'm not even dialed in on that lease yet. And I've been out there, I've spent more time on that 30-acre block than I've spent anywhere else detecting, and I'm still not dialed in. I could walk up and grab your piece of gold tomorrow, but I don't know where it's running. I don't know what's causing it. I'm not dialed in yet. So once you get dialed in, right, and the only way to do that is time and persistence. People give up too early. They like the gold that's coming out of these flogged areas is incredible. So yeah, if someone's saying, oh, that's flogged, it's just that they've given up too early, because there's good gold coming out of a lot of places in Australia. So and the second one is, we might throw that thingo up there, Taylor, the sample, and you've got to test an area. Now, I don't know what your we might minimise, we might get me out of the road a bit here. I don't know how many people actually do this by memory or actually regularly do it, but if we were to look over there, okay, they're test holes and the amount of flakes that came out of test holes, okay, and therefore you can clearly see a run. Now, I've just made that up, but that's a similar result to what I've had happen, okay. So you can see a run of gold in that inside bend, okay. Now, most people do it by memory, but if you're testing a big area and trying to work out where the gold is, a lot of people will actually write it down. On the lease, for instance, I've actually got it mapped out on a GPS system, exactly where every piece of gold's come. I've even started taking photos of some of the pieces of gold so that I can see how water-worn it is, see how smooth, the size, the shape, everything like that. So it's very, very interesting to start to get an idea of what's going on in that little area. And it takes so long to get dialed into an area. A lot of people will go and do 10 pans in an area and go, oh, that area's buggered. Well, it's not. You might have been 2 meters from it, from the run of gold. So we got. Well, I can hear noises in the walls. I hope it's not closing in on us, Taylor. Could be ghosts or someone trying to break in or something. But you really, in an area like, if you pick any of the fossicking areas, the well-known fossicking areas, you can just be 1,000,000 miles from it, and it takes no time at all just to write down, just to draw a rough diagram of the creek and go, right, I'm here, I got 2 flakes. I'm here, I got 10 flakes. I'm here, I got 6 flakes. It will tell you a giant thing and help your understanding of it. A lot of people who don't write it down have great memories, but they're nowhere near as precise as the people who do write it down. So if you're persistent and sample an area, that gets you a long way down the road. So, righto. So, well, Peter makes a comment here. It could be Corey stumbling around. No, Corey's off on Mondays, so I hope it's not Corey anyway. Paul asked a good question there, and I haven't covered it here, but what is the best GPS to use? The one you've got is the best one. It doesn't need to be that flash. I use an app on my phone called Gaia, G-A-I-A GPS. It's very, very, very good for GPS mapping, but I love that. I love that app. It's a very, very good app. So I use that a lot. So that app on your phone costs about, I'd have to look it up. It costs, I think it's $12 for the subscription for a year, and another $12 for a good quality satellite map. And the beauty of that is it gives you a satellite map in the bush, so you can't get Google Earth. Taylor, can you just see if you can pull up that Gaia GPS, and we'll put it up on the screen while I'm chatting about it. It is a phenomenal phenomenal little mapping system. That's it. Yeah, throw it up, Taylor. Superstar. This is why I like having. See, Taylor's first night. He's already onto it. This is what I'm talking about. Gaia GPS. That's what I use. It's got fantastic topo maps, fantastic satellite maps. How much is it, Taylor? Does it give you a price anywhere there? The piece of mapping gear. So that would be my suggestion. You've already got the phone in your pocket. I actually I run the phone, I run the iPad in the ute, and I run it on my computer. And my computer is my database that I double check things on. So I suggest you test and sample and record what you find. So yeah, I suggest that's what you do. Righto. So we'll just we'll get rid of that. My stars. I had to be very careful of the colours after my last gold thing. So then let's talk about some basics. Okay, this is real basics. If you've been doing this for 20 years, a lot of this stuff is Phil makes a good comment. Taylor's on the Coronas. No, he's not actually. We'll just pull that down, Taylor, and we'll get to that in a minute. So, from a starting point, gold is very, very heavy. Okay, so that's one of the first things to remember. So it's really, really, really heavy. Okay, so for that reason, wherever the water slows, okay, now we can talk about velocity and speed and the turbulence of places. We can talk about all the different parameters. But if you just think about it where the water's slowed, the gold will fall out. Another way to think about that, particularly if you're a fisherman, is where in a flowing stream, where would the fish sit? Okay, because that's normally a pocket of slow water that slows them up. So righto, so let's talk about specifics. David Lawrence has got a good question there. Do you use any particular pattern when sampling? I tend to go to the spot where my gut is telling me. So if we were to throw those the sampling one up again, Taylor, and shrink me down a bit so we can see what we're talking. Oh no, leave me alone. So if I was sampling that creek, I would instantly go to the 3 next to the 19, right on the riverbank. Okay, that's where I would start looking. Now, but if I didn't get a lot of success there, I would spread out from there. So the back of an inside bend is something we're going to talk about in a minute there, but that's how I normally start, and then I fan out from there and see what results I get. It's funny, when I was preparing this, I think one thing I don't do enough is go up the stream, up the hill enough sometimes. So like, I don't tend to get to that 13 there. I don't tend to come up this way too much, and yeah, that's something that I've just it sort of reminded me of it actually just this afternoon. So righto, so we'll yank that one down there, and we'll throw up we'll shrink me, and we'll get up the next slide there, Taylor, and we'll talk about specifics here. So obviously that's the direction of the water flow, that direction there. So when we talk about if we were to talk about, I've got a list of a stack of things here I'm going to show you. The river has narrowed just up through there. So as the water goes further along there, right, the water will slow as soon as it reaches that point, and the gull will tend to drop the moment it slows. Okay, where the two rivers meet, that's another thing that causes this turbulence above my head here. Causes that turbulence, and it causes the gull to drop fairly quickly, sort of thing. The start of the pools, as we talked about over that side. So we'll throw up that other one, Taylor, and we'll get through it here, and then I'll answer a stack of questions if we can. So let me duck down a little bit here. I'm not small enough, Taylor. I need to be tiny. No one's interested in me. So what I would like to say about obstructions, behind obstructions. So you can see there's a rock in the middle of the creek there. So see that rock in the middle of the creek there? I've got two different coloured gulls behind it, and there's a reason for that. Most people would tell you that the gull will collect where the yellow dots are. Okay, so, and that's correct, it will. Okay, but depending on how fast that river's flowing, the gold may deposit further where those orange dots are. Okay, and there may be a big giant tail coming from the back of that rock that is worth sampling, depending on how quickly the river's flowing all the time. But that green-grey arrow pointing down, is the inside bend. So yes, so if we go back to the rock, Terry makes a point here, might be in front of the rock. Well, yes, it can be in front of the rock as well, Terry. However, if you looked at low pressure zones or where the water's slowing, okay, the area behind the rock, any rock, is substantially greater than the area. There's a tiny, tiny area of low pressure right at the front of the rock, okay? But it is tiny, minuscule in comparison to the low pressures area behind the rock. Yes, there is a small area at the front, but very, very tiny compared to the back. So that's why most people talk mostly about the back of the rock. So, but yes, you're correct. In front of the rock there is a good chance of gold there as well. Right, so what are we talking about here? Let me just catch up. DP Motors says, yeah, it is easier to dredge a lot. Unfortunately, you can't dredge it anywhere in Australia. So, if we were to, so that's obstructions. Now, obstructions can be logs. They can be artificial things like, I know out at my local goldfield out here, there's the old timers have put some corrugated iron in to create an artificial riffle in the river, if you like. We talk about tree roots. Clumps of grass often hold gold. particularly if it's a, you know, on the inside bend, back where the grey-green arrow is. So yes, so there's all of those spots there. But then you need to think about the flood, particularly on the flood gold side of things. The inside bend might be substantially higher up where the green arrow is, or there might be a clump of rocks up high that is worth testing. So when we talked about sampling before, you've got to start looking in all of these areas to really get to know what's going on. So Matty Han here, what are the specks at the bottom of the grey arrow? More flour gold that would accumulate as the flood recedes. Not normally. Normally that inside bend would accumulate. So there's a couple of things going on there. So that, where that's an inside bend in dry water, okay, so in a dry season when the river's not flooding, right, so the gold will accumulate there in the dry. However, it's multi-dimensionals. If that river is still, if that river's running 2 feet higher, that area in the bottom is still acting as an inside bend, particularly if that's a decent sized bank at the bottom of that grey arrow. So even during a flood, even if it's 20 feet deep there, that can be still acting as a inside bend and still accumulating gold because 20 feet underwater, that is acting as an inside bend and creating a low pressure zone. So that's how I read it. I don't know whether anyone's going to disagree with me and say that bloke doesn't know what he's talking about, but that's how I would read that. That would be still accumulating even in the flood. So I hope that that answers that one, Matty. So what if the stream, Phil Griffin here, another good comment. What if the stream, creek, river, one of those three, I assume, hits a hairpin bend? Now, the hairpin bend, so when we think about it, okay, we got X amount of water running down the river, okay? If you've got a hairpin bend, that water will still travel down there at that same pace, okay? It may appear like it's slowed, but it won't slow substantially because the water still has to travel down there. It will cause a lot more erosion, of course, but a hairpin inside bend is sometimes can accumulate a lot more gold, particularly if that hairpin is locked by rocks, okay? A hairpin bend that is, I wish I had a diagram for this, but a hairpin bend had, I won't need one, Taylor's going looking for one, but no, but, so a hairpin bend will walk out, okay? So, or the river will cut it off and create a billabong, okay? So in that case where the hairpin's either walking out or it's being cut off, okay, that tends not to accumulate a lot of gold. However, if that hairpin is locked by rocks, so you've got rocks on the outside, so the river can't walk any further up, and you've got rocks on the inside locking it in, okay, that means that that channel has stayed there for a long period of time, and the inside bend, the back of the hairpin, can hold a lot of gold, but only if it's locked there and can't walk its way out. if it's walking its way out, the gold will be still accumulating. Pardon me. But it's accumulating and then getting silt put over it and silt put over it and silt put over it, and it's walking away. So Phil, I hope that I'm a lot of comments behind here, but I hope that helps. Let's see what else. Mick Nielsen's here. G'day Mick, nice to see you, mate. Let's just now we haven't talked about the bottom of the creek. So in the bottom of the creek, or in the dry creek, right, we're talking cracks, we're talking clay, we're talking about anything that will hold gold. Okay, so just as a riffle in a sluice box, in an old-fashioned sluice box, not one of these flash things, put that flash sluice, the best looking sluice in the world up, that sluice there that we're giving away tonight. Not that one, but a normal sluice box with riffles, just as the riffles will hold, just as riffles will hold, just go back to that other picture, Tuff. Just as the riffles in a sluice box will hold the gold, the cracks in the bedrock will hold the gold. The clay, because it's sticky, will hold the gold. Okay. Any sort of rock bank that runs across the river will hold gold dramatically. I've seen huge sort of gatherings. What's the word I'm looking for? Huge clusters, huge flocks of gold. I don't know what I'm talking about. But a large amount of gold has gathered both before and after a rock structure that ran straight across the river. 4 feet high, gravel either side, gravel clay either side, lots and lots of gold. Ounces and ounces of gold there. So, yeah. So, pardon me. I'm about 1,000 comments behind here, so sorry if I don't get to you. Back to the walking inside bend. I've just seen a comment here from Mark Lord Friday. If you've got a walking hairpin bend, normally what will happen is the hairpin will eventually get cut off, and that becomes a billabong. There's thousands of them in Australia. However, as it's cutting, going around that hairpin bend, and it's cutting that bank, it can be very, very deep, hard against that bank at times, except for when it's cut, that the erosion is cut and all of that's fallen in. So it depends on when. So in that sort of situation with that hairpin bend, what I tend to think of is I'll leave that hairpin bend alone, particularly if it's cutting a long way, right? But I will go to the next bend, the next inside bend, and yes, I will go to the next inside bend, thinking that all of that material that's eroding out of that hairpin bend, the gold is washing down and collecting on the next inside bend. So that's how I would approach that more. So, right, so I'm hundreds of comments behind. How did this happen? What's happened here? Accumulation. It wasn't a flock. Mitch, thanks for the help. Accumulation of gold, not a flock of gold. Bob says, sounds like a lot of common sense to me. And it is. And if you've watched my gold shows before, and that's why I don't do them too much, this gold accumulation shows, right? I talk about the same thing. Like, I bang on about the same thing. And it's really, really hard to change this show because it's been that way for hundreds of thousands of years. So, yes. Now, Trevor has got it here. It's a big mob of gold. That's what it is, a mob of gold. Thank you very much for that. Now, so tonight's, I've got to tell the prizes again. Tonight's prize is a gold rat. Where's the gold rat? 8-inch sluice. This is the disappearing version because it's green. The mat is green, so you can't see it against the green screen. And some pay dirt. So we've got a bit of pay dirt here. We're going to send that out as a runners-up prize. I'm going to show you, there's no point doing any of this sampling unless you know how to pan. So I'm going to give you a 5-minute little thing on how to pan. We'll see a bit of gold in the pan and we'll go from there, right? Dennis, we all want a bloody big mob of gold nuggets. That's exactly what we're chasing. So we'll go over here to the gold panning station and we'll pan a bit of gold and see a bit of colour in the place. Righto, here we are. Gold panning 101. So, really the short version is, I don't care what pan you have. You got a blue pan, you got a green pan. Any of these pans that I've got, I don't know whether you can see here, a negative riffle. You can sort of see in the sunlight, that riffle goes up underneath. Any pan that does that is perfect, okay? So, we've got some material here, okay? Now, this material we use is, we've washed this so people can, pardon me. So when we're demonstrating this, you can see what's going on, okay? So that's the most important, that's why it's clean, okay? So this is good gravel. So the idea of it is that gold is heavy, okay? So if you break up all the clays, there's no clay in this because this has been pretty heavily washed, but if you make sure that everything's broken up in your pan and it's classified, right? And then it's just a matter of stratifying the heavy material to the bottom and the light material to the top. Stratifying is just letting the heavy stuff sink to the bottom and the light stuff come to the top. So to do that, we need to make sure the material's wet, we need to make sure it's broken up so there's no clay, so everything can work. So then it's just a matter of going side to side. I tend to slope the pan forward a little bit, just a little bit, so that the gold is actually accumulating in this bottom corner here. Now, people tend to think I do this too quickly, but I would then, once I've got that broken up like that and started to run the material forward, all of that material on the top 2/3 has not got any gold in it, so you can get rid of it, right? So then we go back and do exactly the same thing, right? You can let it run off the front like this, okay, just like that. Bring it back, tip it forward slightly, run the light material off the top, okay? What this is doing is catching all the black sand, all the heavies in the bottom of the pan. If there's any gemstones, they'll tend to stick in the bottom of the pan as well, because they're heavier than the normal rocks. So if we just run this off here, we've got a little bit of rinse aid in this so we don't get too much gold floating. So surface tension can mean the gold floats on the surface. Now, I'm not quite sure what's in this pan. I can see a bit of black sand. You can see there's black sand starting to accumulate here. So we'll just get it down there a little bit further. Let's hope there's a little bit of yellow in this. It should be. It's out of our sluice that we run. So we'll just get that down. Yeah, there's stacks of gold in it. So, so what you can actually do then is if you turn the pan around the other way and shake it all down to the bottom of the pan, you can actually then run some of this light material off and get it much cleaner without losing any gold. So see how we've got that down a lot further there, right? We can run that off there. I'm watching a piece of gold here as it travels down. There's a lot of pyrite in this as well. There's a little tiny bit there floated off. So anyway, I won't muck around with it too much. Anyway, that's pretty. That's a pretty decent pan of gold. So yeah, it's as simple as that. So just to give you a bit of an idea, this is a snuffer bottle. Okay, they come in a lot of different flavours. They all do pretty much the same job. Okay. So the idea of a snuffer bottle is if you were to accumulate all that gold in the bottom, it just acts as a vacuum cleaner. You squeeze it in, right? And as you release it, it sucks the water up. That tube only goes halfway down the thingo, so you can't actually get anything. Once stuff gets sucked into that tube halfway up, okay, it can't get back out. So pretty much you squeeze it in, use this as suction, suck all your gold up. So there we go. There's most, and all that gold's in here. And just to prove it, there's all that gold back in there. So pretty much that's panning. So we'll go back to the right, so here we are back. Nice mountain in the background. I took that early one morning. That's on the way to Claremont. I've got a funny feeling it's like south of Banana, somewhere like that. Anyway, okay, so people are asking what's Rinse-Aid. Taylor, over on that shelf there is, oh no, inside there is some Rinse-Aid. Can you just grab Rinse-Aid? This is Rinse-Aid. This is Rinse-Aid. Finish Rinse-Aid. There's a ton of brands, doesn't matter. And what it is it's designed to go in the dishwasher so the water doesn't sit, it breaks the surface tension of the water so your dishes get dry, okay? The other advantage of it is it breaks the surface tension. Have I got any gold floating? Can we see any gold floating? Let's have a look here. See if I can get some to float. There you go. There, I've got a big bit there floating. I don't know whether you can see it. See that bit there? That's a piece of gold floating. When I put a bit of Rinse-Aid, is this working? Yes, this is working. When I put a bit of, can you see that bit of gold, Taylor? Maybe. Yeah, see that gold floating? You can sort of see it. Yep. Yes. So when I put a little bit of Rinse-Aid in there, this is going to be a great demonstration, I can feel it. When I put a bit of Rinse-Aid in there, it'll break the surface tension of the water and nothing's going to happen. We need to mix it up. There you go. So when you mix it up, it sinks down. So that's what Rinse-Aid does. There you go, the world's most terrible demonstration of Rinse-Aid. You can guarantee on this show that if I'm trying to... Does anyone remember the night I did dry panning? Has anyone noticed that I've never done dry panning since? There's a reason for that. So, yeah. The beauty of Rinse-Aid is it doesn't bubble as much as dishwashing soap. You can do it with dishwashing soap as well. But, yeah. Yeah. Well, it didn't work as well as I thought it was going to work, but that was Rinse-Aid. Okay? Dry panning got a similar result. It was a terrible demonstration. I'm sure people are better at it than me. And, yeah, that's what it does. But a little bit of Rinse-Aid does help. So, that's Rinse-Aid. So, I should give the bottle of bloody Rinse-Aid away to whoever wins the pay dirt. Okay, so the next prize, you get a bottle of this stuff that doesn't work. So, it does work. It does. Right, so, it does work. I'm just hopeless. That's the issue that's going on. Yeah, Richard says Finish won't sponsor me now. Yeah, I think that's pretty close. That's why I have to sponsor. That's why it's proudly presented by Gold Diggers. So I don't get too many sponsorships offers, let me tell you. I'm too opinionated and muck stuff up too much. So to win tonight, all you need to do is put a comment in the comment stream. Okay, so let's get back onto this. Something I've got some knowledge about, unlike rinse aid and dry panning. So we talked about, let's show that the last graphic up, the one with the rock in the centre. Have I finished talking about that one? There is one thing I've got to talk about there. With flood gold, okay, see that yellow stripe of gold run? I should, there. I'm just sort of off the screen. That run of gold there. That is a typical run of flood gold on an inside bend, okay? It will deposit in a run of gold, okay? Now, the only way to discover where that is to sample. Just make me like 10% bigger. I can't quite point to the arrow, Taylor. Oh, there we go. Perfect. Sort of. The only way is to sample down this arrow and find where the best gold is happening. But you need to use the old sample technique and just keep testing until you find out where things are happening. Okay, the rinse aid disaster. Well, we did have a disaster. I think Taylor might have been involved in that. We had a sluice set up, same as what we got here at the shop, at the old shop, in the camping shop. And we were busy doing something or other, and I said to the boys, put a little bit of dishwashing detergent in that sluice so that none of the gold floats. And we had a whole, it was just for a demonstration. I went back in the office, and I think about 10 minutes later I come out. I couldn't see the sluice. It was just, there was this ball of, were you there that day?
That may have been me.
That may have been Taylor. There was this ball of suds, like dishwashing bubbles and suds. And you couldn't see the sluice. And there was just, it was all over the floor. It was a hell of a mess. We looked a bit amateur that day, didn't we? So, yes. So that was that. Right. So we've got to get onto it here. We've got more stuff here to talk about. Waterfalls. Now we haven't got a graphic. I tried to draw a waterfall, but I was pretty crap at it, to be honest. So a waterfall, if you can imagine a waterfall going down, goes over the edge, creates a big dish in the bottom as stuff falls, breaks up the bedrock, washes it out. In the bottom of that waterfall can quite often be very good gold. Okay, it collects in the bottom there, and because it's heavy, if it's got a bit of depth, it won't wash out again. So in the bottom of waterfalls are a sensational thing. Let's talk about, just for a minute, we're probably finished with the graphics. Taylor, we'll put up a bush picture or something. So I'm having a lot of success at a particular spot at the moment with an old riverbed. It's up high on the mountain using a recirculating sluice. So no one's ever tested it. Well, they probably tested it, but no one's ever worked it simply because there's no water there. So if you're up on a mountain and you see an old riverbed, washed gravel coming out, okay, it's quite a good idea to test it, particularly if you've got a recirculating sluice, okay, because no one's ever washed that dirt. Even the old timers won't have washed that dirt, okay. So keep an eye out for those washed river rocks up high, in the ancient times when the ground shifted around, volcanoes, all that sort of stuff. Riverbeds are up high. There's a particular spot I know of that has river rock wash river rock, 2 feet deep, then a layer of volcanic rock, then washed gravel above it, and there's about 6 layers of this volcanic, this river wash covered with a volcanic rock, right? And there's one particular seam. To be fair, I can't reach 3 or 4 up high, but one particular seam there that's carrying gold. The other one I haven't found any gold in, and I don't know whether I'm not on the inside bend or what's going on, but one of them's definitely got gold in it. So that's another thing to think about. All this works exactly the same in the old ancient riverbeds. All exactly the same. I think I talked last week about finding gold on the beaches. Yes, you can find gold at the beaches. I've done it before. I've got myself into trouble for it with a dredger operator. But yes, there is gold at the beach. Most beaches in Australia, there's a beach in Tasmania that you crevice the surf beach rocks, and there's good gold there. I'm going to do that one day. I think that'd be pretty cool. I think it's on the north coast of Tassie. There's 4 or 5 things that are just general reading the area thing. So the first one seems obvious. Black sand's heavier than than the normal stuff. So if you're seeing a lot of black sand, that's worthwhile testing, particularly at the bottom of the black sand. So you may have to dig deep down, but black sand is an indicator that the heavies are collected there. Okay. So Richard Bevan, a Tassie road trip. There is talk of a Tassie road trip. I do want to pan that. Someone said the name of it. DR Rocks, is it? Moonlight Head, Cooey Beach, Tasmania. Geez, I've got a lot of them. So let's talk black sand a little bit. So gold is heavier than black sand. Okay, so if you see an area of black sand, normally it indicates that the water flow is slowed in that spot. But gold being heavier will have dropped out before the black sand quite often. So if you're looking at a perfectly straight run and there's black sand falling out as the water slows down, normally the gold will fall out upstream. Okay. So the same thing happens with pebbles and rocks. If you've got a major water flow, as in a flood, big rocks are heavy, so it makes sense they will, as the water slows, they will fall first. The coarse gold will fall with it. Okay, as you go down where these rocks are falling out and the rocks are getting smaller and smaller and smaller, different size gold is falling out further down. The flour gold will be right down further compared to where the big rocks are falling out. Now, one thing to bear in mind, what I just described is the perfect, straight run with no other obstacles, nothing else causing it, right? But when you're seeing if you're seeing it, particularly in this flood, a lot of the flood stuff that's going around at the moment, if you're seeing a run where the river's widen and all of a sudden there's these rocks stacked up, and then it goes on a bit further and it's like they're graded, and like the medium ones are here, and a bit further along there's the smaller ones, that's worth testing, because that means that the water's slowed and that's where the material is dropping. Okay, so really notice those areas, those big rocks dropping out, and there's medium, small. Really investigate those areas, and it may be that there is a tree root in there that comes in, and it's accumulating, and that may be where the gold is. There's a lot of those sort of things that you've really got to pay attention to get really good at finding gold in the creeks. Now, while it's fairly recent, the floods have been fairly recent, is a good time to get out there and take some notes of areas that may get overgrown with grass, and you may forget about seeing those gravel patches being dropped out. Okay, now you can go and have a look at a lot of these areas now, but you might not be able to get into them. You might not be able to get to them for the next 12 months, but if you've got a big list of stuff and a map with X's drawn on it and this and that, that's the trick to keep you going for 12 months, 2 years till the next flood event. Right, let's talk about people, okay? Most people, and I know no one watching this, but most people are particularly lazy, okay? So you go into a well-worked creek, a fossicking area that's the only fossicking area. It's about an acre. It's the only fossicking area within 500 kilometres, right? People will go into that fossicking area, right? They will scratch at the bottom of someone's hole. They'll take a pan, they get 2 colours out of it and go, this area is flogged, okay? They'll walk around it, walk away from it, okay? Yet, you hear a story on Facebook that the bloke went to this same fossicking area, right? And he got 0.5 gram. How's that even possible? Well, the first bloke was lazy and didn't persevere, right? He took the top. He didn't dig down. He didn't do the hard work himself, right? A lot of these fossicking areas, you can, even in bedrock comes apart. There's cracks in bedrocks. You can lever that stuff out. I've gone down, as an example, on a lump of bedrock out in Maloka Goldfields. I've gone down, it's probably 2.5 feet into the bedrock, right? And all of that stuff, there's still, these cracks are still going on. These cracks are still going down, and it's feet down, okay? So take a pry bar, do the hard work. That's the trick to it. Do the hard work and persistence. Know there's gold there. If you get in colour, the crack's going deeper, get into that crack. Work it down. So that's sort of about it. I mean, my summary is be persistent. Test the areas. Don't be lazy. Do the work. And there's gold there. There's good gold there. Everyone can do it. Every single person here can go out and over a weekend found 1/4 gram of gold. No trouble at all, right? But not if you don't do the work. Persistence, research, and then what happens is, this is hard for a new person starting. What happens is then, they get all excited, they put it on Facebook, I found 0.5 gram in 2 hours work. And someone asks where it is, and they put it out on Facebook. They go back next week, and there's a crater there. So, keep quiet about it, right? That's what, if you don't want people, you're best not to tell everyone. So, that's just a little bit of advice from me. And you will get good gold doing that. No doubt about it. You can do it. Like, every single person here can do it. Right, so, we've got a few little jobs to do. We've got prizes to draw. We've got... So, let's talk about let's throw up that... that one, Taylor. Throw that one up. Shrink me down. Make me midget-like. Am I allowed to say midget on TV? Small person. Little person. Right, thank you. Let me, before I get into too much strife, Fossick Australia, and I'd like to apologise to any people that are under average height that I've offended here tonight, so my apologies. Fossick Australia Women's Group, okay? Absolutely fantastic group, or so I've been told, right? It's secret women's business, blokes aren't allowed. So if you're a lady, that's a fantastic group to get involved in. So, right, so make sure you get on it. They've got cool badges too. Just scroll down on that page a bit, Taylor. Have they got pictures of the badges? Where are the badges? Oh no, we're locked out. We can't see it. Someone said we're men. That's right. So, yes. Right. So, maybe there's a... Have they got a... No, it'll all be private, see? Secret women's business. Yes. There is... But they do it... They've got a really cool badge. I'm going to see if I can swindle one of them. So, let's just click start here. So, this is for the... this is for the bag of pay dirt. Ian Murrell. Congratulations, Ian. Again. So for the sluice, this is a cracking sluice, this thing. So here we go again. We've got our steam-driven generator going here. Matt Lebner. So Matt, congratulations. Righto. Thanks very much, guys. I'll see you in a couple of weeks' time. I'll be kicking around, so if you need me, I'll be on the helpline phone for some of it. But yeah. Okay, guys. Thanks very much. All right.